I had always believed that my days would continue in a steady, if uninspiring, rhythm, mornings filled with the clatter of an alarm clock and the coffee-stained routine of work, afternoons lost among spreadsheets and mundane meetings, and evenings spent in the quiet isolation of my small apartment. The city outside my window pulsed with life, but inside, my existence was a muted echo of dreams I once had. Then, one ordinary Tuesday night, a hidden text alert shattered that predictable pattern. I was alone in my dimly lit living room, curled up on an old, familiar sofa after another long day at the office. The rain pattered gently against the window, a soft, persistent reminder that even the heavens sometimes cried. My phone buzzed quietly on the coffee table, its screen illuminating with an unexpected message. I glanced at it absently, expecting a routine notification, but the message was unlike any I'd seen before. The text was brief, almost cryptic. Tonight. Luxurious getaway. Intimate dinner. Follow the plan. A. The signature was simply an A, and yet it sent my pulse racing. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Who was this mysterious A? And what was meant by a luxurious getaway paired with an intimate dinner with a stranger? My mind swirled with possibilities. Had someone hacked my phone, or was this an invitation carefully planted in the digital ether to change my life? For several long minutes, I reread the text, feeling a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Every word seemed to pulse with hidden meaning, as if it were a key to a door I'd never dared approach before. My first thought was to dismiss it as a prank or an error, yet a quiet, insistent voice inside me whispered that there was something real behind those words, a promise of escape, of experiencing life in ways I had long suppressed. I sat back on the sofa, letting the gravity of the message settle over me. That night, the text did not merely announce plans, it disrupted the fabric of my existence. I had spent years denying the parts of myself that yearned for adventure and passion. In that moment, I realized that the safe, predictable life I had built was suffocating the person I was meant to become. The following hours were a blur of restless energy. I paced around my apartment, mind racing with questions. Who was A? Why choose me? And what exactly was the plan? In the silence of the night, punctuated only by the sound of rain and my own racing heartbeat, I decided that I could no longer ignore this invitation. I began to scour my messages for any clue, a prior conversation, a hint in an email, that might shed light on this mysterious alert. Nothing came up. It was as if the text had materialized out of nowhere, a solitary beacon in the dark. Before I knew it, the clock had advanced toward 8 p.m. I found myself hesitating in front of the mirror in my cramped bathroom, trying to decide what I should wear for an evening that promised to be unlike any other. I chose a simple yet elegant outfit, a dark blazer over a crisp white shirt, paired with tailored jeans that offered both comfort and a touch of sophistication. I felt both nervous and strangely empowered, as though the act of dressing up was itself an assertion that I was ready to break free from the shackles of mediocrity. With my heart pounding like a steady drum, I locked my apartment door behind me and stepped out into the rainy night. The city, usually a vast sea of anonymity, now felt intimate and full of hidden possibilities. I hailed a taxi, and as the vehicle wove through glistening streets and neon reflections, I tried to piece together the plan that had been entrusted to me in that single text. The driver, a quiet man with kind eyes, never spoke more than a few words, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the soft hum of the engine. After a short ride, the taxi pulled up in front of a building that exuded an understated elegance. A discreet sign above the door simply read The Elysian. The architecture was a blend of classic stonework with modern glass accents, a fusion that somehow reflected the duality of my emotions that evening. As I stepped out of the cab, I paused for a moment beneath the awning, letting the cool drizzle wash over me, feeling as though the rain itself were cleansing away the remnants of my old life. Inside the lobby, I was met by a hush of opulence. The reception area was bathed in soft, ambient lighting, with rich, dark wood paneling and artful decor that spoke of a place steeped in secrets and luxury. A receptionist, her expression serene and professional, greeted me with a polite smile. "Good evening," she said softly. "May I help you?" I hesitated for a moment, then replied, "I have a reservation under a private plan. The confirmation code is A." Her eyes flickered with a moment of recognition, and with a discreet nod, she motioned for me to follow her. I was led up a marble staircase that curved gracefully to a set of elegant double doors. The sound of soft classical music accompanied each step, enhancing the feeling that I was entering a realm apart from the mundane. When the doors opened, I stepped into a spacious lounge that was both intimate and grand, a private area reserved for guests with exclusive invitations. Velvet drapes, plush seating, and a low, warm glow from crystal chandeliers created an atmosphere that was almost cinematic in its beauty. A slender figure awaited me at the far end of the lounge, a woman dressed in a flowing, midnight blue dress that shimmered under the ambient light. Her dark hair was swept back in an elegant style, and her eyes, the color of a stormy sky, held an intriguing mixture of mystery and warmth. As I approached, she turned her gaze to meet mine, and for a moment, time seemed to suspend itself in that quiet exchange. She smiled, a soft, knowing smile that made my heart flutter, and extended her hand. "Welcome," she said in a calm, mellifluous voice that resonated with a confidence that both reassured and challenged me. "I'm Aurora. I believe you received the text." I nodded, suddenly aware that every moment of my life, every suppressed desire and hidden dream, had led me to this very encounter. Aurora's presence was both soothing and electrifying. It was as if she embodied the promise of the getaway, the embodiment of the secret plans that had been sent to my phone. We exchanged few words as we were led to a secluded table set near a grand window overlooking the city. The table was adorned with a simple bouquet of white roses, crystal glassware that caught the light with every subtle movement, and an elegant menu handwritten in delicate script. The intimacy of the setting was in stark contrast to the grandiosity of the hotel lobby, and I sensed that this dinner was meant to be personal, a space where barriers would be lowered and the truth of our inner selves might emerge. As we settled in, I couldn't help but notice that every detail had been curated with a meticulous hand. Aurora explained in soft tones that tonight was not just about dining, it was a carefully arranged moment designed to offer both of us an escape from the constraints of our everyday lives. "I, too, have been waiting for a sign, a chance to step out of the shadows," she said, her eyes reflecting both vulnerability and determination. "Sometimes, life sends us hidden messages, and tonight, I believe fate has brought us together." We began our dinner with an array of delicately plated appetizers, each dish a small masterpiece of culinary art. I marveled at the intricate flavors, a delicate balance of savory and sweet, hints of spices that danced on my tongue, and an undercurrent of something inexplicably exotic. Between bites, our conversation flowed effortlessly. Aurora shared fragments of her own story, tales of a life spent confined by expectations, dreams shelved in favor of duty, and the growing realization that she could no longer ignore the call of her heart. In turn, I found myself revealing truths I had long hidden, the quiet desperation of a monotonous routine, the yearning for passion that had always simmered beneath the surface, and the flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than what I had been allowed to see. Every now and then, I would glance down at my phone, half expecting another message to illuminate the screen and further confirm the destiny of this evening. Instead, there was silence, a silence that seemed to hold its own promise, as if the very absence of words was urging us to look inward, to trust the unspoken language of our souls. Aurora's laughter was like a melody, soft yet insistent, and with each shared story, the walls around my heart seemed to crumble further. The intimate dinner was not just a culinary delight, it was a ritual of connection, an act of rebellion against a life that had once dictated that I remain in the shadows. As the courses changed, from a velvety soup that warmed me from the inside out to a rich main course that left me savoring each bite, I felt the gradual emergence of a self I had long suppressed. I began to see that the luxurious getaway was not merely a physical escape but an invitation to reimagine who I was and what I could become. By the time dessert arrived, a delicate confection of molten chocolate, caramel, and a hint of sea salt, I was completely enthralled by the unfolding magic of the evening. Aurora reached out, her hand brushing gently against mine as she raised her glass in a silent toast. "To new beginnings," she whispered, her voice almost lost beneath the soft strains of a piano playing in the background. I returned the gesture, feeling the significance of that moment ripple through me like a promise fulfilled. When the dessert was cleared and the final notes of our conversation faded into a comfortable silence, Aurora looked at me with an intensity that made me pause. "Tonight has been a turning point," she said softly. "I believe we both needed to be reminded that life is more than just a series of predictable days. There are moments of beauty, risk, and intimacy waiting for us, if we only dare to accept them." Her words resonated with every fiber of my being, affirming that the hidden text alert, the secret plans, and the luxurious getaway were not random acts of fortune but carefully orchestrated signals from a universe that had grown tired of mediocrity. After dinner, we lingered in the softly lit lounge, our conversation drifting to future possibilities, a life unburdened by the chains of expectation, where every secret meeting held the promise of transformation. As the night deepened and the rain outside subsided into a gentle mist, I realized that this evening had already altered me in profound ways. The memory of the hidden text alert, the exquisitely detailed plans, and the genuine connection I had forged with Aurora was imprinted on my soul like an indelible mark. Eventually, the time came to part ways. Standing at the entrance of the lounge, Aurora pressed a small envelope into my hand. "Keep this," she said, her eyes lingering on mine. "It contains the next step of your journey. Trust in it, as you have trusted in tonight." With that, she offered one last, enigmatic smile before disappearing into the night. I stood there for a long moment, the envelope warm in my grasp and my mind alive with possibilities. As I made my way back through the rain-glossed streets to my taxi, I felt a sense of liberation that I had never experienced before. The hidden text alert had been the spark, and tonight, the intimate dinner with a stranger, had fanned that spark into a flame that promised to guide me into a world of secret adventures and endless potential. In the quiet solitude of my ride home, with the city's lights reflecting like scattered jewels and puddles on the pavement, I opened the envelope. Inside, I found a handwritten note, written in elegant, flowing script. "Your journey has just begun. Meet me tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the veranda on Ocean View. A new chapter awaits." The note was signed simply A, echoing the mystery of the initial text. My heart raced once more as I realized that the invitation was not a one-time escape but the beginning of an unfolding adventure, a path that promised not only luxurious getaways but a series of intimate encounters that would challenge me to live as fully as I had always dreamed. By the time I reached my apartment, the rain had finally ceased, leaving the night quiet and reflective. I sat at my small desk and began to write in my journal, capturing every detail of the evening, the thrill of the unknown, the vulnerability of connection, the taste of exquisite food, and the promise hidden in that final note. I wrote of the transformation I felt, the shifting of my very essence as I embraced a part of life that had always been hidden from me. For the first time in years, I felt alive in a way that was both terrifying and exhilarating, a life no longer measured solely by routine but by moments of daring beauty and unspoken hope. As I closed my journal and turned off the light, the hidden text alert and the intimate dinner with Aurora played over in my mind like a sacred mantra. I knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new mysteries, and the continuation of a journey that had already redefined who I was. I drifted off to sleep with the promise of a new beginning echoing in my heart, a promise that I was ready to follow wherever this mysterious invitation might lead. I awoke the next morning to a fragile blend of excitement and apprehension. The note in my hand, the one signed simply A, rested on my nightstand like an encrypted message from a future I had yet to explore. Its elegant script, reading "Meet me tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the veranda on Ocean View. A new chapter awaits," seemed to vibrate with promise. I could still feel the lingering warmth of last night's intimate dinner with Aurora, and every detail from that evening played over in my mind, the gentle murmur of rain, the soft glow of the Elysian chandelier, and the moment our eyes met as she spoke of a life beyond routine. Now, with the morning light creeping in, I was left with the overwhelming realization that my life was about to shift in ways I'd never dared imagine. The hours leading up to noon passed in a surreal haze. I found myself mechanically going through the motions of an ordinary day, the clack of my keyboard at work, the hum of the office air conditioner, but every time my mind drifted, it returned to that message. I would catch myself pausing mid-sentence or looking out the window, daydreaming of secret rendezvous and luxurious escapes. In meetings and casual conversations alike, I felt a strange detachment, as if the routine world around me were a distant echo while a more thrilling reality beckoned just out of sight. At lunchtime, I stepped outside for a walk, letting the cool autumn breeze brush past me as I tried to clear my racing thoughts. I recalled the instant the text alert had arrived last night, the way it had jolted me awake from a life of quiet monotony. I thought about Aurora's gentle assurance that there was more to life than the familiar, and I wondered what new chapter awaited me. The city was already stirring with life. Vendors were arranging their wares on busy sidewalks, and the vibrant hum of distant traffic mixed with the chirping of early birds. Yet, to me, the familiar cityscape seemed transformed by the hidden promise of something extraordinary. During that walk, I found a small cafe tucked away on a side street, a place that appeared unremarkable to a casual observer but which, in that moment, felt like a portal to another time. I sat at a worn wooden table by the window, ordered a cup of strong espresso, and opened my journal. My handwriting, usually sparse and neat, flowed with the urgent need to document this internal upheaval. I wrote, "Every moment today feels charged, as if the universe is waiting for me to act. I sense that the day will bring not only clarity but an invitation that might change the course of my life." I paused, allowing the words to settle, and then reread the note that had ignited it all. The promise of a new chapter echoed through my thoughts, urging me to cast aside the residue of self-doubt. As the afternoon progressed, I decided to prepare both mentally and physically for what was to come. I returned to my apartment with renewed determination, its walls suddenly imbued with the possibility of transformation. I took a long, hard look in the mirror, recalling the image I had seen the previous night, the person I was starting to become. I felt as if I were on the threshold of a metamorphosis, shedding layers of old habits and expectations. I changed into something that reflected my emerging self, a crisp, dark blazer paired with a tailored shirt, and a pair of slim trousers that lent me an air of quiet confidence. Every choice, from the polished shoes to the subtle cologne I sprayed, was an affirmation that I was ready to step into this unknown future. By early evening, I felt both nervous and exhilarated as I made my way to the veranda on Ocean View. The journey there was like a pilgrimage, a deliberate movement away from the familiar confines of my routine. The veranda was a modern sanctuary perched on the edge of a towering oceanfront hotel. As I approached, the sight of its glass facade and the rhythmic crashing of waves below filled me with an almost overwhelming sense of possibility. The structure was sleek, yet it held an undeniable warmth in its design, a promise of intimacy amid luxury. Stepping through the revolving doors, I was greeted by an expansive lobby that seemed to float between contemporary minimalism and subtle opulence. Soft music played in the background, blending seamlessly with the gentle murmur of water cascading from an artfully designed indoor fountain. I felt a momentary pause, as though the building itself were acknowledging my arrival, guiding me toward the next step of my journey. A courteous receptionist offered a warm smile as I explained that I had a private reservation under a code that matched the note I carried. "Welcome to the veranda," she said softly, handing me a small, embossed card. "Your table is ready on the terrace." With that, I was led along a corridor lined with panoramic windows that offered breathtaking views of the ocean, its twilight hues merging seamlessly with the skyline. The anticipation built with every step. Upon reaching the terrace, I was struck by the magical atmosphere. The space was elegantly arranged with low tables draped in white linens and scattered with small, flickering candles. Plush seating areas were thoughtfully placed to encourage intimate conversation, and the gentle sound of waves provided a constant, soothing rhythm. In the center of the terrace, a large, unobstructed view of the ocean stretched out before me, its deep blues merging with the last vestiges of the setting sun. The cool breeze carried a faint tang of salt and promise, and for a moment, I felt as though I were the only person in the world, poised on the brink of transformation. I was shown to a table at the far end of the terrace. As I sat down, my heart pounded not only from the anticipation of the evening but also from a growing sense of inevitability. I realized that every secret text, every hidden plan, had been guiding me to this singular moment. I studied the table's delicate setting, a single rose in a slender vase, a menu printed on thick, elegant paper, and a soft glow from a pair of crystal candlesticks. It was a setting designed to cultivate intimacy and sincerity. Moments later, as I was absorbing the ambience, a figure emerged from the softly lit shadows at the other end of the terrace. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized a subtle hint of familiarity in the way this stranger carried herself. She moved with an effortless grace, her long coat flowing behind her like a whisper. As she approached, our eyes met, a glance that was both probing and kind. "Hello," she said in a low, melodious tone as she came to stand beside me. "I'm Serena." Her name, like her presence, resonated with a gentle yet unyielding strength. There was no pretense in her smile, only an openness that invited trust. "I've been expecting you," she continued, her gaze steady and sincere. In that instant, the room seemed to fade around us, the soft clinking of cutlery and murmurs of distant conversations dimmed into the background, leaving only the palpable connection between us. Serena's arrival was the next carefully orchestrated step in the secret plan outlined by that hidden text alert. As we exchanged pleasantries, I sensed that her role in this journey was both significant and deeply personal. Over the first course, a delicately prepared appetizer that combined flavors I'd never before encountered, our conversation began to unfold naturally. Serena spoke of her own desire to break free from a life that had grown stale, of dreams deferred and moments lost in the routine of everyday demands. Her eyes, reflecting the fading light of dusk, held a quiet fire, one that mirrored the longing I had buried deep within myself for too long. Between shared stories and soft laughter, we discovered an uncanny similarity in our journeys. Like me, Serena had experienced moments of subtle rebellion, a hidden text alert on an ordinary day, a spark of connection in a world that often felt cold and calculated. With every word, I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crumble, revealing the raw, vulnerable truth beneath. The conversation was punctuated by thoughtful silences, where the only sound was the rhythmic crashing of waves below and the distant call of a seabird, as if nature itself were participating in our unfolding story. As the evening progressed, our dinner courses arrived one after the other, a symphony of culinary artistry that heightened our shared experience. Each dish was a revelation, a meticulously balanced soup that warmed me from within, a main course that blended textures and flavors in unexpected harmony, and a dessert that was both decadent and delicate. With each bite, I savored not just the food but the knowledge that I was part of something far greater than myself, a secret world where passion, risk, and authenticity reigned supreme. During a pause between courses, Serena leaned in closer, her voice soft yet insistent. "I believe that every moment in our lives is a chance to rewrite our destiny," she confided. "Tonight, here on this terrace, we are given a rare opportunity to step away from the ordinary, to trust that the universe is speaking to us through these hidden signals." I nodded, feeling an almost electric surge of agreement. In that moment, our conversation transcended the mundane, touching upon the deeper truths of self-discovery and the courage it takes to live fully. I found myself sharing details of my own suppressed desires, the quiet dissatisfaction with a life that had always promised stability but delivered little more than a gentle monotony. I spoke of the dreams I once harbored as a young person, dreams of adventure and genuine connection, and of the painful resignation that had led me to accept a life of predictable routine. Serena listened intently, her eyes never leaving mine, as though she were deciphering every unspoken word. "Sometimes," she said softly, "it takes one brave act, a single invitation, a secret message, to shatter the chains that bind us." Her words resonated deeply, and I could feel the weight of years lift ever so slightly from my shoulders. Time seemed to lose its hold as we delved deeper into conversation, each revelation drawing us closer, weaving a tapestry of shared hope and mutual understanding. Outside, the sky transformed from twilight to a canvas of deep indigo, sprinkled with emerging stars that glimmered like distant promises. The ambient lighting on the terrace shifted accordingly, casting long, gentle shadows that seemed to mirror the contours of our faces and the emotions flickering within them. After the main course was served and we lingered over dessert, the world around us felt hushed and suspended. The intimacy of the moment was almost tangible, every gesture, every glance, became a silent vow of trust and possibility. As the soft strains of a live piano began to play, Serena reached across the table and pressed a small, folded card into my hand. "This is for you," she said, her eyes reflecting the sincerity of her gesture. "It contains the details for the next step on your journey. I believe that if we dare to follow these signs, we can discover who we were always meant to be." I unfolded the card with trembling fingers and saw that it was a handwritten note, its calligraphy elegant and flowing. It read, "Meet me at the Lighthouse Cafe at 9 p.m. There, beneath the stars, the next chapter awaits." My heart pounded as I realized the significance of the note. It was signed with the same initial as the mysterious text from last night. Could it be that A was orchestrating these encounters? Or was this simply another layer of a carefully curated experience? The ambiguity only deepened the allure. I looked up at Serena, who smiled reassuringly, as if she, too, understood that every secret message was a stepping stone toward transformation. Before we reluctantly prepared to leave the terrace, Serena and I embraced the magic of the moment. We stood together beneath the vast expanse of the starlit sky, feeling as though the world had narrowed down to just the two of us and the promise of the unknown. "Tonight," she whispered, "we are not defined by our pasts. We are free to rewrite our futures." Her words, carried away by the gentle night breeze, cemented my resolve to follow the path that lay ahead, no matter how unpredictable or fraught with risk it might be. I departed the veranda with a head swirling with hope and trepidation. The ride back was quiet, filled with introspection and the soft, rhythmic pulse of the city in nighttime mode. I kept the note safe in my pocket, a tangible reminder of the promise that awaited me at the Lighthouse Cafe. As I finally arrived home, the intensity of the evening lingered like a sweet perfume in my senses. I sank into my armchair and opened my journal once more, pouring out every detail, the taste of exquisite food, the intimate conversations, the gentle assurance in Serena's eyes, and the silent call of destiny etched in every line of the handwritten note. That night, as I lay in bed beneath the comforting darkness, I allowed myself to believe in the magic of these secret plans. The hidden text alert, the luxurious getaway, and the intimate dinner had ignited a spark that I vowed would never be extinguished. I drifted off to sleep with the promise of tomorrow resonating in my heart, a promise that I was ready to follow these mysterious invitations and embrace the uncharted journey toward a life redefined. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, eyes tracing the ceiling fan's rotation, the echo of Serena's voice still swimming in my ears. If we dare to follow these signs, we can discover who we were always meant to be. The note sheet slipped into my hand at the veranda, rested on my nightstand beside the first one from Aurora. The paper felt almost sacred, still warm with her touch, still trembling with unspoken possibilities. Meet me at the Lighthouse Cafe at 9 p.m. There, beneath the stars, the next chapter awaits. The simple elegance of those words haunted me. That morning, the world looked different. The light pouring through the blinds wasn't just another sunrise. It was a countdown. I moved slowly through the day, but everything around me buzzed with quiet electricity. Coffee tasted richer. The morning walk sharper. Faces on the train felt more animated, like extras in a scene I was now actively starring in. For the first time in my life, I didn't dread the evening, I ached for it. 8:03 p.m. I arrived early. The Lighthouse Cafe sat on the edge of the coast like a secret carved into the landscape. Nestled between sea cliffs and winding roads, the cafe had no flashing signs or street-facing facade. It was subtle. Quiet. The kind of place you didn't find by accident. I stood on the gravel path leading to its wooden patio, the distant waves crashing against the rocks below. Overhead, the sky stretched endlessly, deep blue bleeding into black, flecked with stars like pinpricks in a velvet curtain. There were lanterns lit outside. Each flickered with a golden flame, guiding my steps like breadcrumbs through the dark. I entered through a side door. The smell of cinnamon, firewood, and sea salt hit me instantly. It was cozy, bohemian, even. Worn couches, mismatched tables, a record player humming low jazz. Warm. Disarming. A hostess, older, kind eyes, weathered hands, greeted me without asking my name. She only smiled and nodded. "They're waiting for you. Downstairs." Downstairs? I followed her through a narrow hallway that led to a spiral staircase made of iron and cedarwood. Every step downward seemed to deepen my anticipation. At the bottom, I found myself in a stone cellar, softly lit, filled with low conversation and shadow. The walls curved inward like the inside of a seashell. Around a long oak table, 6 people sat, some faces familiar, others new. And at the head of the table, standing with a calm, unshakable presence, was Aurora. She wore a deep emerald dress, her hair flowing freely over her shoulders. She smiled, not in surprise, but in recognition. "You made it," she said. And I knew I had. The others welcomed me with nods and subtle smiles. Serena sat 3 seats down. She met my gaze, offering no words, just a touch to her heart with her fingers. Aurora gestured for me to sit beside her. A small place card sat in front of the chair. My name wasn't printed. Just the letter A. "I'm not the only one," she said softly, reading my reaction. "We're all anonymous at first. Until we choose to become known." I looked around. Each person had a different story written on their face: pain, resilience, curiosity, hunger. But what united them was unmistakable: they had all followed the text. Aurora raised her glass. "Tonight is not about ending anything," she said. "It's about claiming who you really are. We've all been called by something greater than boredom. Something louder than fear. And now we must decide if we're ready to live without walls." She turned to me. "Tell them. Why did you come?" All eyes turned to me. I swallowed hard. The wine in my glass trembled slightly in my hand. "I came," I began, "because I was tired of wondering who I could have been. I was tired of being a ghost in my own life, watching it pass like scenes through a fogged-up window." The first message didn't scare me. It woke me up. I looked at Serena, then Aurora. I came because for the first time, someone saw me. And I wanted to see myself. The room was quiet after I finished. Not tense, reverent. Each guest then, in turn, began to share. One was a former surgeon, who left the operating room after losing a patient. "I didn't just lose her. I lost myself." His text had led him to a desert retreat where silence finally spoke louder than his regrets. Another was a corporate lawyer who had ghosted her life one weekend after a panic attack at her desk. "The system gave me everything except permission to be alive." Serena spoke last. "I ran away the day I realized I couldn't even tell my own reflection the truth. I saw myself in a mirror and didn't recognize who I'd become. That night, I got a message: there is still time." I packed a single bag and followed the trail. And now I know, I was never running from my life, I was running to it. Silence. Heavy. Healing. Aurora placed a velvet pouch on the table. From it, she pulled 7 silver keys, each one intricately designed, no two alike. You've heard our stories. Now it's time to write the rest. The key Aurora placed before me felt warm, even before I touched it. A curl of silver wrapped around a single gemstone, dark blue, almost black, like the ocean at midnight. These aren't just tokens, Aurora said. They are choices. This key opens a door to the next place. The next invitation. If you choose to follow. I stared at mine. What if I'm not ready? I asked. You are, Serena said simply. And I believed her. Aurora leaned in. The next message won't be a text. It won't be hidden. It will be in the way someone looks at you. The door you hesitate to walk through. The moment you want to say no but your heart screams yes. That's the next invitation. Will you accept it? I nodded slowly. Yes. After the gathering, we moved back upstairs. The cafe had emptied, leaving only our group and the ocean's voice. Outside on the patio, we stood beneath the vast, starlit sky. Some hugged. Others stood in quiet reflection. Serena came to stand beside me. She handed me a folded piece of paper. I opened it. Go to where your fear ends. And your story begins. No address. No time. Just a sentence that shook me to my core. I looked up at her. Will I see you again? She smiled, but didn't answer. Instead, she kissed my cheek and whispered, when you're ready for the final key, you'll find me. She disappeared into the night. Not dramatically. Not tragically. Just quietly. Like a chapter ending naturally. I took a cab back to my apartment as dawn began to break. The world outside moved in reverse. Lights clicked off. The city yawned. I sat on my bed, the velvet pouch in my hand, the silver key glowing faintly in the morning light. I laid it beside the 2 notes, from Aurora and Serena. 3 messages. 3 doors. 3 nights that had peeled back every layer of the man I once pretended to be. Now I was only myself. Honest. Awakened. Unapologetically alive.